objections, I'll get us started. I'm not seeing any objections. So I will begin with my opening remarks. Welcome to the October 24th, 2023 meeting of the Planning Board. First, we'll take a roll call to introduce board members and staff. Excuse me. Phil Giordano.
I'm here.
Chris Paff.
Here.
Kate Wynn.
Here.
I'm Ellen Rawlings and I'm here. We also have Elijah Romulus, our town planner. Amanda Wolf, you're our zoning and housing agent. Yes? No?
Housing and land use planner.
Housing and land use planner. Thank you. And Jessica Cole, our recording secretary. We also have Alex from Westwood Media Center. The meeting is recorded by Westwood Media Center and broadcast live on local cable television Comcast Channel 6 and Verizon Channel 42. Meetings are also live on the Westwood Media Center's YouTube channel. If you're interested in joining the meeting via Zoom, you can find the login directions in the Planning Board meeting notice that's posted to the calendar section of the town's webpage at https://www.townhall.westwood.ma.us/. We will begin the meeting with only the board members and staff unmuted and on video. As the chair recognizes individuals to speak, we will unmute them. Board members may choose to mute themselves when they are not speaking in order to minimize background noise. For applications, the chair will first invite the applicant to address the board and give a presentation summarizing what is being requested. Board members receive the application materials prior to the meeting and will have reviewed them. Board members may ask questions during and following the presentation. Staff and outside experts will provide comments to the board. If the issue includes a public hearing, the board will then proceed to the public comment portion of the public hearing and will restate the instructions. In this remote meeting format, residents and guests may participate in several ways. Attendees should raise their hand and wait to be unmuted and recognized to speak over the Zoom meeting application or from a telephone dial-up. We will be able to hear you, but not see you. Additionally, comments may be submitted by email or regular mail prior to the meeting. When we come to that part of the meeting, I will remind everyone of the process. Following the public comment portion, the board will deliberate and make a decision or continue the hearing to a specific future date. All remote meetings require that votes be taken by roll call. When a motion and a second has been made, the chair will ask if there is any further discussion before proceeding to a roll call vote, and then we'll restate the results of the vote. Okay. Elijah, do we have any changes to our agenda this evening?
Yes. 22 Everett Street. The applicant has asked for a continuance. Let's see if I can pull up the letter here. Rather the email. So Elijah, following up on our telephone conversation of yesterday relative to the planning board hearing on the above captioned matter, please accept this email as a formal request to continue the planning board public hearing on the above referenced matter, 22 Everett Street, currently scheduled for the meeting on Tuesday, October 24th, 2024. I believe he meant 2023, to the planning board meeting of Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. This continuance is requested to provide time to undertake the following, which can then be presented at the continued hearing: preliminary draft of the transportation management plan, a meeting with Westwood School Department, traffic peer review by the town of Norwood. Kindly confirm receipt of this email, and that said hearing will be continued as requested.
Great. So I think it makes sense we just take that out of order and just continue it now. Is that acceptable?
If it's the board's purview.
Do we need to make a motion?
I think we do, yes.
To continue it, yeah.
So motion to continue as stated in the request to the November 14th meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. As that is a public hearing, do I need to take public comment on continuance, Elijah, or?
No.
No. Okay. Just wanted to make sure for procedure. We don't need to take public comments. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just when we get to this, where it was supposed to be discussed, we might want to just remind someone in case they came in after this, that
Okay.
we're not going to be hearing this tonight.
Sure. Good point. Always good to restate. Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Chris?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The motion carries. The hearing is continued. Excellent.
Love it.
Any additional changes to the agenda, Elijah?
Not for this evening.
Wonderful. All right. Then the first item on our agenda is 1054 High Street. And this is a new public hearing for consideration of a limited environmental impact and design review, EIDR, to construct an addition to a private school building with parking alterations. Let me just pull up the legal notice, and I will open the hearing by reading a portion of that. The Westwood Planning Board will hold a remote public hearing on October 24th, 2023 at 7 p.m. via Zoom regarding an application filed by CMB Carpentry, Inc. for consideration of a limited environmental impact and design review, EIDR, approval pursuant to Section 7.3 of the Westwood zoning bylaw for the purposes of constructing an addition with a basement of the same area that will include 2 classrooms and a restroom, resulting in 1,896 square feet of gross floor area. In addition, the project will add 9 parking spaces at the property of 1054 High Street, Westwood, Mass. 02090, in accordance with application number PB-23-52. The property is in the Single Residence C SRC zoning district. Land affected, Assessors Map 20, Lot 108. Property owner, 1054 High Street, Westwood, LLC. All right. It looks like we have representatives for the applicants here. Welcome.
Hello, good evening. My name is
Good
Tom
evening.
Neal. I'm the architect for the project.
Hi, good evening. I'm Mary Beth Tobin. I am the executive director for Tobin School Westwood, and my husband and I also own the property.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm happy to turn the floor over to either or both of you. If you have a presentation you'd like to share with us about your application.
Sure, so I can share my screen. It's similar documentation to what you've already seen. Really what we're looking to present is what's already been proposed. So an addition to the school, if you're facing the school, it would be on the west side. If your back is to High Street. In addition to the proposed addition, there'll be an extension of the parking lot off into, right now it's basically a kind of a grassy hill that sort of rolls to the back of the site. The goal is to allow for more parking for teachers and for the kind of morning and afternoon drop off and pickup, just based on changes to the school throughout, or kind of since COVID. Doing drop off at the door allows the families to, just bring the children to the door and kind of return back to their vehicles and carry on their way. Let's see what else. Really, everything from the school behind what's shown on the civil plan or the site survey is all existing to remain. I think there were a couple of notes that said a new proposed concrete patio that's actually existing and will stay. There was maybe some confusion over sports fields that were in the back. Those are all staying as is. They're really children's play areas. It's not like a soccer field or baseball field or anything extensive of that nature. They're small little kind of recreational play areas for kids. Really, that's kind of it as a whole for kind of what we're doing to the site. So any feedback that you guys have based on kind of what's been submitted in the application process, and we did respond to some of the comments from a third-party review just the other day to kind of finalize some of the submission. I know there were some outstanding items in there that will be items that need to happen in the future related to screening of some of the parking, and some of those kind of buffers. So those were really the only items that I had seen that were potentially outstanding, but happy to hear feedback from you all.
Thank you. Elijah, do we have anyone from our peer reviewer here to speak to some of the peer review comments?
Not this evening. I do have, if I may, just in regards to the parking for the applicant. I know we had gone out to the site last week to take a look and meet with Tom and the contractor. However, the plan that was updated, or the plans that we have, still don't show the right dimensioning for the parking spaces. So we're not sure if the proposed amount is in fact what the site can actually take. So we would need a revised plan that meets the standards based on section 6.1.4.4, as well as the rules and regs for the parking design standards by the planning board.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I did see those comments come through, Elijah. I just haven't had a chance to get the civil engineer up to speed on these dimensions or dimensioning the plan.
Definitely, and so, Madam Chair, I just wanted to mention it probably would not be the best choice to move forward with the project in terms of making any type of decision at this meeting, just to make sure that we can address that parking concern, and if the applicant is able to update the plans and get the right, size parking spaces, as well as addressing some of the building department's comments, that would probably be the best option. So I would suggest continuing this to the next development meeting.
No, I agree with that. I'd like to proceed with some feedback and questions from the board, because I certainly had some, and I'd like to open it up to my colleagues as well, particularly if we are going to continue. It'll give the applicant a chance to address those, prior to the next meeting, so that hopefully we have a more complete picture when we discuss this next, if that's amenable.
Definitely.
Great. So I will open up the floor to my colleagues if there's any board members that have questions or comments on this project. I'm not seeing any hands. Chris, it looks like you're talking, but you're muted. So, and I would love to hear what you have to say.
I'm so sorry.
No
I was
worries.
hoping for a little, if the applicant could maybe share the screen of what I'm looking at as a proposal or a site plan proposed. I'm just having a hard time essentially with the number, the count, and with the proposed 1.5 story addition, looks like it's choking off 1 or 2 spots. So I was under the impression you were looking for what, 16 spots out of this, and I don't see 16, but maybe there is. I don't know.
Yeah,
Can you
you're actually,
describe them? What am I looking at?
you're correct. And I just, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So I've kind of numbered these as well. And the ones you're probably speaking to are these right here. I think it was just a miscalculation on that was kind of printed on here.
So how many spots do you need?
So based on the calculation, we actually do need 15. The number that I'm showing here is 14, just based on, because this last spot is clipped. But if based on like the zoning metrics, so I think it's it's 2 spaces per classroom. So there'll be 3 classrooms. And I believe it's 1 per teacher or 1 per employee that kind of works in the facility. So right now that number is hovering around 9 or 10. There is some overlap, like we had quickly mentioned, because of sort of these COVID hours, if you will, or the COVID drop off where people are really just, bringing kids to the door and there's not much of parking and waiting. The kind of flow of people through the space is quicker than it used to be in 2019 and earlier. In addition, they also, just the way the Tobin School functions, they have teachers who come in and park, but they're only there from kind of the midday window, if you will, from like 10 o'clock to somewhere in the 2-3 o'clock range, just to help supplement the other teachers. So they're parking, but they're not occupying space during those drop-off pickup windows. So long story short, we're one short of what zoning, what the Westwood zoning is saying we're required, but I think those standards were obviously set well before COVID was even, on anyone's radar. So hovering in that 14 to 15 range, I think is the sweet spot for the school to kind of function. And Mary,
Okay,
please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and can I speak now?
Sure.
So just to clarify, so we have 9 teachers working in 3 classrooms, but from when we open at 7:15 to 10, we have 6 teachers. From 3 to 5:45, we have 6 teachers. And between 10 and 3, we have 9 teachers, because the other teachers, the shifts overlap and they're there to help cover breaks and so on. So at the time the parents would be dropping off and picking up, there would not be ever 9 teachers there. There would only be 6 teachers. So it was just for an extra consideration.
Elijah, do these numbers jive with what you've been presented with?
Yes. So I believe if the applicant can demonstrate, with the proper dimensioning, that they can fit up to 13 spaces on the site, I believe that's a number that can accommodate the uses for this school.
So, and just so I understand, so drop off and pick up, the parents have to escort or walk to the classroom to pick up or drop the child off, right?
No, they actually, since
No?
COVID, the parents walk the children to the door. And there's somebody there to greet them at the door, and then the parents leave. So they just go to the door. They don't go in the building. And
The front door?
Well, there actually will be 3 doors. So each classroom will have its own door, so that they go to the front door or the back door. Right now, we have 2 classrooms, one upstairs and one downstairs. The upstairs parents pick up at the front door, which is actually to the left of what looks like the front door by the ramp. And then the children who are downstairs, they go through the playground and pick up the children at the classroom door.
So the parents have to leave the vehicle morning and evening.
Right, for about 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes at the tops.
Which means
Yeah.
they'll be looking for a spot instead of waiting double parked in that circular drive.
Right. We've never had an issue, because the parents, some come at 7:15 and some don't come until 9 or 9:15.
I understand they're staggered naturally.
Yes, of course.
Okay. That would be my biggest fear in this change in parking. I know we're accommodating 7 more spots from what the parents, or are those labeled 10 and 11 new spots? Or is that the gravel area we were reading about? In the front, off the high street? Are those to be new?
Those are not,
So I didn't hear that, Ann, sorry.
those are not existing.
So they're to be counted as new. Okay, so we're adding nine spots to what's existing, and we're losing 2.
That's correct.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to, that's why I wanted some narrative behind what I was looking at. I just wanted to fully understand what was happening. So my biggest fear is you get parents who just double park and leave their car thinking I'll be very quick, and then an entire backup onto High Street happens just because of 1 or 2 cars that aren't playing by the rules, or there aren't any spaces at that moment.
Yeah, we've been in that site since, I think it was 1995, and we've never ever had that happen.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the clarity. I do appreciate the narrative. That's it for me.
Thank you, Chris. Phil, I saw you had your hand up next.
Yes. Do you typically have parent helpers or volunteers that would be using some of the spaces?
No.
Oh, okay. That was one of my questions when following up on some of Chris. Can you give us some detail about landscaping, plantings, trees? Some that's a little slim on that.
Okay, as soon as we have our approvals, or as soon as we're given some direction what to plan, as I mentioned before to Tom Neal, that my husband is a retired arborist and my son is a certified arborist also. So we are waiting for some direction to start those designs for the parking lot.
So you're waiting for the planning board to give an approval and then you're going to submit? I'd like to see some kind of sense of plantings. I'll defer to Elijah, but I think, and I know Alan's probably going to have some comments on that, but to me, that's something that we should give some consideration. So those are the two major areas. Since we're going to have a continuance anyways, I probably will have more questions, but I'll defer to Kate.
Thank you, Phil. Kate?
Thank you. Yeah, my questions are not so much about the cars and how many you can fit, but how do you anticipate the pedestrians to be walking around this larger number of cars coming in and out more rapidly? So I appreciate that you haven't had overflow onto High Street. That's fine. I just want to know what's happening for the pedestrians here in this plan.
I rarely ever see pedestrians around their building, to be perfectly honest.
So
They might be
forgive me,
across the
I'm
street.
talking about your students and the parents getting into and out of this building as there are cars coming in and out. How do you anticipate them to be walking?
Okay, so the parents have the children's hands and they go directly into the building. There are 3 different entrances into the building. And we reinforce with the parents often they need to be careful in the parking lot, and it's never been an issue ever.
Right. I totally appreciate that it hasn't. What I'm wondering is for cars 10 and 11, what door do you anticipate them to use to go in? For car 7, like will there be guidance that
There would be, yes, absolutely.
And what would that guidance be?
Depending on which classroom you are in, those are the spaces you should park in. Unless there isn't, then you could use another one. But it's not that often that we have everybody there. There's such a flow to the traffic, to the drop off and pickup. They never all come in at the same time. The parents.
I really do hear that. All the more reason that I want to see you have a plan for pedestrians. It's the most critical item for me in any parking lot, not just yours. What's happening to the people as they walk around cars who may or may not be in a hurry to get their kids there on time or pick them up on time. It's my greatest concern. So I'd love to, when you come back to us, I'd love for you to be able to speak to that a little bit more.
Okay, could you give me a little bit more detail on exactly what you'd like me to have in that plan?
Sure, just whatever your instructions are going to be for the parents, that if you're entering through this door, we want you to park over here, and does that number of spaces designated for this entrance make sense? And whatever your plan is.
Okay.
I don't have to come up with your plan. I just want to know that you have one. I'm sure that you do have one, but yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just to kind of expand upon Kate, I'm going to just jump in briefly. We're looking for how you anticipate the pedestrians to flow. Where are the bodies supposed to go as compared to just kind of like, you park and then you walk. We get that, but it is more, are you putting signage? Is there going to be some kind of painting on the surface? Mm-hmm. Is there going to be a designated walking area? There's a whole bunch of things that hopefully your professional advisors can tell you, but that's just to give some expansion. We would be looking for that at the next hearing.
Okay.
I'll defer to the chair.
Thank you, Phil. Yeah, I have a few comments. So I'll start with Phil. Phil is correct. We typically, if there's landscaping and we do require, we have landscape requirements, they're in the bylaw. We want to see the landscaping plan prior to approval because sometimes we have conditions around that. Just so that you're aware, we do require native planting, native to Massachusetts. So when you're choosing your species, and I do check them. I'm very interested in that. And I am pretty candid with my feedback if something's not a Massachusetts native. So if you could, kind of drill down on that, that would be super helpful. Okay, so some of my other comments and questions. I noticed typically when we get a plan like this, there's information included that references the zone that you're in, which happens to be, if I check the zoning map correctly, it's single residence C, because there's some criteria. And the one that I'm interested in is the total amount of impervious surface on any given lot. And I don't know how much you currently have, and I don't know how much you're going to be creating. Like I'd like to see those numbers because I believe the bylaw also says you can't have more than 50% of a total lot as impervious surface. And since we're talking about a building, which include, an addition, which includes a roof and pavement, I think there's going to be more impervious surface here. So I would be very interested in those numbers because that's important for us to know. Which also leads into some of my other questions. I know you were hoping for a waiver on the stormwater design and the study, and I just want to be transparent. I'm personally not inclined to vote yes on that waiver because we're talking about a lot of impervious surface. I read that there was some reference to a Caltech drainage system, but I haven't seen any plans on that. So I would like to see what you're planning for stormwater management. It may or may not be sufficient for what you're creating, but we have no way to evaluate that yet because I haven't seen any of those plans. And given that there's wetlands behind you and a fairly steep slope running from the back of that lot, runoff is something I'm very concerned about. So I would like to see some data on calculations and, all of that. So I'm just being transparent. I'm personally not inclined to grant that waiver because I think given the nature of this project, it would not be the right thing for me to do to waive that requirement. I also noticed that there was, in the peer review, there was some question about the discrepancy between the land disturbance estimate you filed said under 5,000 square feet, which wouldn't trigger a land disturbance review, but that Beta called out that it was more like 5,600, which would trigger it. So I'm curious whether or not there's been some consensus on that and whether or not you will be filing land disturbance with conservation.
Yeah, so our plan currently is not, I guess it just, I didn't have any information how they made that calculation versus sort of what we calculated based on this civil drawing. And I don't know where that approximately 600 square foot-ish discrepancy is, because those numbers are so tight, it's sort of hard to determine where the line is and which side of it we fall on.
Okay. I guess I'll also be looking for resolution of that because it is a difference between having to go through. I mean, it's an administrative review, but it's part of the process. So I'll be interested to see what the resolution of that is. And I think, I'm sorry, I'm just reading through my notes. My only other question or comment was, I know that there had been in our notes, there was some reference to the existing gravel parking, which is kind of more on the Lakeshore Drive side, which I don't believe is on either set of plan. I know where it is. When I took my walk today, I made a point of walking past the Tobin to make sure I understood what I was talking about. And that there was, I believe we received some public comment referencing that as well. Yes, the gravel area, but it wasn't necessarily obvious that it was used for parking in this drawing. And I did observe cars parked there today, and I believe that there was some talk of turning that into loam and no longer using that for parking. And I just wanted to understand that is what you're proposing. For clarity, that is what you're not going to continue to use that area as a parking area, that you're planning to turn it into a grass area.
Correct. So
Okay.
based on our conversation when we were on site with myself and Elijah and Amanda, we had talked about this area being turned, exactly what you said, turned back into grass essentially, and no longer, being for people to think that it can be parked on, especially with the expansion of the parking off of High Street.
Great. I guess one thing that I'd suggest is too strong a word, but I'd throw out there as something to potentially entertain, given that there are concerns about stormwater runoff and you're increasing your impervious surface. Maybe if it's not cost prohibitive, looking at something like a rain garden or something with more roots than grass, and using that area as a way to maybe mitigate some of the runoff. There are some neat ways to do that. If that's something that you might consider or entertain as part of the revised design, I'd be interested to see. Certainly not a requirement, but grass is to me better than pavement. But there are other plantings that I'd be more interested in if it's something that you could make work. But I am sensitive that cost is an issue. That is all that I had. I don't know if any of my colleagues, if anything else came up during the conversation. I'm not seeing any hands. Elijah, any staff or other comments you'd like to share?
Yes, so I just wanted to make sure in terms of the current staffing and student capacity for parking versus what's being proposed. So right now, you have how many students, or rather how many teachers and in classrooms?
We have 2 classrooms right now, and we have 3 teachers per classroom.
Okay, so that's 2 classrooms, 6 teachers.
And we're adding 2 classrooms, but there will only be one that will be used as a classroom. The other room will be a gross motor room, multi-purpose room. So we have a place on inclement weather to take the children. We have a place to do yoga. So that will never be a classroom with children assigned to it.
Okay, so you have currently it's 2 classrooms, 6 teachers, and then the proposal is 3 classrooms, 9 teachers.
Right.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have. I do encourage, actually, in terms of the screening, I did mention that at the site walk last week, just to make sure that there's screening along the proposed parking lot, and enough to buffer for the abutting properties. I had mentioned arborvitaes as well as other plantings.
Thank you.
And I just, my concern is also making sure whatever plantings we put don't make it difficult for people coming out of Lake Shore to see 109.
Fair enough.
But we take, that we take that into consideration too. I don't want that to become a problem.
No, that's a good point. Elijah, and correct me if I'm wrong. I know there's some guidelines and or bylaws about like fence and sight lines. Do we have anything similar that might be helpful for them as far as helping them, plan where to put things? Is there any kind of guidelines we could offer?
I can look into that and send it to the applicant after this meeting.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Chris, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Just a follow-up to what was just discussed. We're increasing teacher staffing by 50%, right? Going from 6, add 3, half 50% to 9. Is the classroom that's being added going to accommodate the same number of children that
Yes.
the classrooms 1 and 2?
Yes.
So generally, what will that go to? How many students in each classroom now?
We'll add probably 18 children to that classroom.
Okay, and we currently have 36?
37, 30, yeah, something right about that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Just wanted to verify that. That classroom was the same size as the other two. I was really looking at how many more cars are going to be coming to the site versus what is coming there now. And can this parking configuration accommodate that? So that's why I just want to verify the number of children and teachers. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Phil.
Just two quick comments. I wanted to echo the chair on the stormwater management, which I should have mentioned, but following up on Mr. Pfaff's comments, the timing, how is the traffic on High Street at the time of drop-offs and pickups, I guess, is the question, because if there's sightline issues with Lakeshore Drive, is there going to be an issue with respect to the increased number of cars, and how do we assess that?
I know I've said this before, but it's a really small school.
Right.
We have families with multiple children in the school, and they come over. I mean, the people's work life has changed over the past few years, and they may be working at home, so they might drop off. So we've never had congestion.
Okay, I get it. My wife's a nursery school teacher. She's been at Westwood Nursery School for ages. I guess, given that on a percentage basis, there's going to be a pretty significant increase. I guess I'd like to see a little bit more detail on, especially how the car flow is going to come in. How you're going to. I don't want to, get too heavily, because I understand that you have limited costs that you want to do with this, but I just want to make sure that we are looking at if there's any issues with the car's egress and entrance into the site. That's something that I'm concerned with. So
I don't believe that will change. We still will have 2 curb cuts. So as you look at the school, the circular area in the front, all the cars come in on the right side and they exit on the left side, and that has never changed.
And that's what you expect at the same time for the increase?
Yes, correct? No difference in the curb cut. Those will stay the same.
Okay.
Ms. Tobin, has that evolved, or is that by way of signage, enter here, exit here, something like that? Or is
that's how we've always done it. It's always been that way. For safety, it's just easy for people to come in and.
No, but we're relying on the motorist to understand that. We enter on the right and leave on the left.
Yes, that's right.
There's no sign saying enter here.
There might be. I honestly can't tell you if there is or not. There might be one.
Okay.
We can put one in. That's not a problem. I'm sure at one time we did, whether it faded on the pavement when we had it painted, but I believe we have arrows on the pavement.
If you could incorporate that, especially with just following up on like the pedestrian points that we were talking about, because we don't know, and we're relying upon you to give us the information. So
okay.
I would just echo that with Mr. Pfaff. Thank you.
Thank you. Were there any further comments from board members or staff? Yes, Elijah.
Yes, I would just like to mention to Mary and Tom, just for the clearance issue for the corner, you can check out the section 5.5.5 of the bylaw, and that can help guide you with that.
Thank you for that. Yes, Kate.
Sorry, I do just want to say that I'm delighted that you've come before us. I have never had anyone. My children didn't go to the Tobin School. I've been very curious to get a better look at it. So I'm excited that things are going well for you and you're looking to expand. And I'm glad that you brought this to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for entertaining this. We have a wonderful community. And we don't want to be a big community. We like being a small community. And I think this will be having a multi-purpose room and another classroom to help our current families, I think will be really a big asset.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll put out one more call for comments from board members or staff. before I move to public comment, as this is a public hearing. Not seeing other hand raised from my colleagues. So at this time, I will open up the floor for public comment. For public comment, you may either raise your hand and we can allow you to speak, or if you prefer, you can enter your comment or question in the Q&A section of the Zoom. Please just include your full name and address for the record so that we can share your comments. I'll give that a minute. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised, nor am I seeing anything in the Q&A. So I believe at this point, I would entertain a motion to continue this public hearing. And Elijah is kindly sharing the motion language.
I move that the planning board continue the public hearing for the limited environmental impact design review EIDR for 1054 High Street as described in the application therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on September 13th, 2023 to Tuesday, November 14th, 2023 at 7 p.m. via Zoom, where a Zoom link and associated call-in numbers will be provided on the town's calendar on the homepage at https://www.townhall.westwood.ma.us/.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will take a roll call vote. Kate?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you very much for coming, and we will see you in November.
Okay,
Thank
thanks-
you.
Thanks for your help. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Right. The next agenda item was the continuation of the public hearing for the consideration of mixed-use multifamily residential overlay district special permit for 22 Everett Street. Just to reiterate, we did continue that public hearing at the beginning of this meeting. We have continued it to November 14th. So hopefully if anyone was here specifically for that, they did catch that earlier that we continued the hearing. So we will be taking that back up on November 14th. So I'm sorry, I'm scrolling. Our next agenda item would then be 18 Alcott Lane, consideration of proposed approval not required A&R plan for 18 Alcott Lane. Do we have anyone here from the applicant team? We do. Wonderful. Thank you. Good evening.
You are muted if you are speaking.
There I go. Not too familiar with the Zoom yet. It's only been a few years. Greg Bunovitz, Borderland Engineering, here on behalf of the applicant Seth Cohen and Zemelia Roche, and also the owners of 15 Corners, Andreas Rosso and Alfredardis Rosso. Sorry about the pronunciation. So yeah, this is an A&R plan, and there was some comments that went back and forth, and one of them, so this is land court property, land court registered land at 18 Alcott Lane. So there's a process to subdivide that, and it goes through the land court Department of Registered Land, and we need to comply with strict standards, with the survey standards, to make sure that's done properly to their standards. And that process went through, and now we're at the process of the planning board endorsement to, have the A&R plan endorsed, and the parcel of land, non-buildable portion of land held in common ownership with the property at 15 Corners. So the biggest comment was, correct me if I'm wrong, that the property cannot officially be held in common ownership, and that is because land court property cannot be combined with recorded land at the registry. So it's two different departments, and don't ask me why Massachusetts has done it this way, but it's really old process that that's just the way it's done. There's land court property and registered property, so that cannot be actually combined. What happens is there's a deed that's written that gets recorded that shows both parcels on that deed and refers to this plan, and then whatever plans that's the description of the property at 15 Corners, and that's put on one deed, and then it gets recorded at the registry, and then it also gets recorded at land court. So not ideal, but that's the way it's done. Of seeing it done most recently in Canton on a survey that I worked on. So it's not that uncommon. It's just the way it's needed to be done. So if I can answer any questions, I'll be glad to.
Thank you. I guess there was no peer review on this, so I will open this up to my colleagues for any questions or comments.
I'm curious if the applicant could just articulate with the help of his cursor on the screen exactly what is trying to be conveyed.
I don't have control of the screen.
Oh,
think.
well, maybe Elijah can.
Yeah, it's just the lot 8 that's created by that land court parcel, which is a portion of what's existing at the land of 18 Alcott. So it's downhill of the property. The land is all upland, and it's a downhill portion of the property that the owners at 18 Alcott, it's an unusable portion of their property that is closer to the house over at 15 Corners. So it makes sense for them to convey it to, the owners over at 15 Corners. So it's called Lot 8 on the plan, and it's 1,430 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Kate?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm still not clear on exactly what we're being asked to do here, and I wonder if Elijah might have anything to comment as well. So lot 8, you'd like to have held jointly by Connors and Alcott, but it's not possible?
No, that's not, nope, I probably said it wrong in my jumbling of, going
Sorry.
on in a tangent.
So
Stop me
who's
if you're
gonna get
totally
lot 8?
confused. Yeah, I know it's a confusing thing. This is an A&R plan, approval not required plan, which is usually a pretty simple process, from the planning board. It's not a subdivision. It means does not meet the subdivision control law for a definitive subdivision. So it just has to be endorsed by the planning board. That says it's not a subdivision, and which it's not, because we're not creating any new parcels that do not have frontage on an existing way. So
Right.
this lot is, instead of the big holdup is in one of the comments that I saw, and maybe Elijah could tell me if this is truly the biggest holdup. I could be making this up, that it's not, it cannot be actually combined. It has to be, the terminology has to be held in common ownership. So that's what we put on the plan. And there's never an intent to ever not have it be in common ownership. So what happens is a deed gets written up that has, both of those parcels on it, currently 15 Corners Way, and then this lot 8, and it's in one deed, and it never is not out of that common ownership. And it gets recorded in 2 different departments at the registry.
Okay, great. And so maybe I misspoke. I think, and I appreciate this is an approval not required, but what we are being asked, but what we do need to see is that the application is complete. So maybe that's what I need to ask Elijah about is it complete enough for us to consider?
So the applicant did revise the plan a good amount from the last proposal. However, there are a few outstanding items that I think could be wrapped into an approval with some conditions. I had laid them out as, this lot right here would need to explicitly be labeled not a buildable lot. That's one thing that would be able to allow for the board to endorse. Another would be that the proposed lot 8 is transferred to the owners of 15 Connor Street in a manner such that the name of the grantees on the deed for proposed lot 8 are identical to the names of the grantees on the deed for 15 Connors Street. Also, looking at that the owners of 15 Connor Street file a new A&R plan to combine the proposed lot 8. And then we also did speak to our council this morning, and it is possible that the property owner petitioned the land court to release the proposed lot and allow it to be combined with 15 Connor Street. So that is another condition I would consider. I would ask the board to consider if they were to endorse it.
Elijah, can you just move the cursor slowly so I can see, because it's going quickly and I just want to make sure exactly the lines that we are addressing? Okay.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, because
I was trying to highlight it, but
yeah, no, I
it's not
get it.
letting.
Is I just want to make sure that I understand precisely what we are actually looking at. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
May I speak really quick?
Sure.
Sure.
So one of the comments was it needed to be labeled and not a separate buildable lot. That is labeled on there.
So right now it says not a separate building lot, but just the term that we would like is not a buildable lot.
I think it's pretty much the same thing. That could be
With
easily
respect,
revised.
with respect, I personally would like to see that, because for me, it's very important for this board to be consistent. And we have looked at similar A&R plans with a similar conundrum. And like for me, with that not being labeled, not a buildable lot clearly, technically, this could be a subdivision with a lot that doesn't have adequate frontage. So that is not something that I would vote to endorse. So I would like to see this or condition it, but for me, that is really important to see that labeled clearly for me to consider endorsing this.
Okay,
plan.
that's no problem. The other thing that's just a concern for me is creating another A&R plan that shows them being combined. Like I stated before, that's not possible with the Registry of Deeds. If this plan was endorsed and this ownership was conveyed over to the owners at 15 Connors, the owners at 15 Connors could petition land court to take it out of registration and then combine it. That could be a potential condition, but we would need to at least be able to convey the property to them first.
Elijah, can we have a condition as to which has implications in court? I don't know that that's something we can do. So do you know?
Sorry. Yes. So I believe conditioning it for that, having the owner petition land court, I think that would cover it, as opposed to what Greg had mentioned, kind of being concerned about.
Thank you, Phil.
Mhm.
Let me just scroll down and see if anyone else, I don't see any other hands. So Elijah, I'm going to ask for your guidance here, because it sounds like we can condition the outstanding things. Because again, for me, it's really important to be consistent in how we handle these types of A&R plans. So if we're within our purview to condition the outstanding items, and, you know, I wouldn't sign the Mylar until I saw those things changed. That's something that
I
we
agree
could,
on that. I think that's important.
yeah, that's a big thing for me. So Elijah, I guess I'll look to your guidance as to whether or not that's an acceptable way to proceed and to condition all these things. And, you know, with the understanding that if I go to sign the Mylar and I'm not seeing these things, then I'm not going to sign it. If so, then I would entertain a motion at this point to move forward. But I'd really like to defer to your guidance on this.
Yeah, so I'm trying to edit some of the, one of the conditions based on this discussion. One being labeling it not a buildable lot. The other, I'm not sure, you know, trying to work with the applicant, but I do believe we would need to have the 15 Connor Street apply for an A&R that shows those lots being combined. I think once, however, whatever fashion that needs to happen would be what we condition this for.
Well, that, excuse me, I cannot do that until this plan is endorsed and because then we won't be able to convey the land over. So that's a little hiccup in that condition.
But if we create the condition, can't that condition then carry forward for you to be able to convey? Because
Yeah, if this plan gets endorsed, then yeah, we would
obviously it has to get
basically
endorsed
just,
or you
yeah.
can't. There would
Yeah,
have to be an
yeah,
endorsement.
exactly. So I just didn't want it to be a condition upon the endorsement.
No, but obviously you need the endorsement, but
Mhm.
I think Elijah, you can still do the condition.
That's correct.
He can't do anything without the endorsement, is I think the point.
All I
Yes.
can do is change the word building to buildable, not a buildable lot, and that's no problem.
Yes, if you can just give me 1 second. I can bring up what I am working on right now.
And if I knew about that before, I would have definitely had done it.
Let's see. All right, so I think that covers everything of concern for this A&R plan.
I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So condition 4, I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce your name. My apologies, Mr. Bunovich. Did I say that
Yeah.
right? I did.
that's
Okay.
fine.
Great. I just want to make sure I understand. Is condition 4 something that your clients can agree to?
I don't see why not. I mean,
Okay.
it would just be me creating another plan that shows the boundaries. Well, after we take it out of registration, which is a process that is done legally, so I'm not really in tune to exactly how that's done. And you know, that may be something that we would want to have our attorney just verify that that is actual possible. You know, I know it's possible. I just don't know the exact process and on it and how long it takes. But you know, I think
Elijah,
it's,
how did you come up with the 6 months?
That was suggested by our conversations, council, and figuring
Okay.
this out.
Is that enough time for the applicant to execute this, number 4?
you know, I don't handle the legal end as far as removing it from registration.
Okay.
But I would think that's sufficient. I mean, if it's not, we can just come back to you again, right? It's
Okay.
not, wouldn't be the end of the world.
Can I jump in? The 4 is just the petitioning, but not approval by the land court. Isn't because so it's essentially putting the application to the land court without anything more. So aren't we looking to get a petition and approval, Elijah, in 4? But then the 6 months, I question whether jumping on Chris's, I don't know that the 6 months is going to be sufficient.
Can
Yeah,
we
it's a
say
good pickup,
petition
Bill.
within, sorry, can we say petition within 6 months and approval within, you know, a year and a half?
Yeah, because you're then subject to the land court schedule, but essentially 4 only is the filing with the land court. That's what the petition is.
Right. Right.
And we need something beyond just the filing. We need the approval of the land court.
Yeah, so the other thing, like you mentioned, I just thought of now is the land court does sort of move in slow motion, so we
They
have to
do.
watch out for that. You know, and I think it's more because they'll take this plan and they'll create what's called a decree plan from it, and I see that taking up to 10 years, but that doesn't mean that. I don't think it doesn't. I don't think it means that we can't take this little lot 8 out of land court registration before the decree plan is actually prepared. But I could be wrong, because I know they issue a certificate of title right away.
So I think at best, you know, we could, you know, have them petition within 6 months. However, after that, the approval would probably, you know, I don't know if we can necessarily condition something that with the timeline that we're unsure of.
Yeah, because we can't find the land court, and you have no idea what their docket's going to be or the timing of that. But with we could say something to the effect with approval in the ordinary course of the land court's process or something like that. Something along the lines that there is approval in the ordinary course.
Confirmation of approval
by the land court. The land court in the ordinary course of its proceedings.
So I was wondering if I could just quickly ask for clarification on something.
Absolutely. Please do.
Why is it not acceptable to just have it like be the condition that it's held in common ownership?
Yeah, so that's just not what we have procedurally done. And given the fact that this is a case involving registered land and recorded land, we just wanted to make sure that we have this as tight as possible.
And I think we're trying to avoid an issue in the future for another day, I think.
Yeah, I can see that, but if that's the condition from the planning board, it must remain in common ownership under the same entity. I don't see how that they would ever sell off this 1,400 square foot parcel to somebody.
But why would 4, I like the way you did that, Elijah. Why would 4 be a problem otherwise? Because it maintains consistency within the town for this kind of consideration. And I think you have a lot of flexibility if it's confirmation of approval in the ordinary course of proceedings as submitted to the town planner. It's a notification, that's all, that there's no issue. I guess that's the new 3. I think that works unless somebody else is concerned.
Land court. So. Shall petition the land court to release the proposed lot 8 and allow it to be combined. So the land court's not gonna be the one that allows it to be combined if they released it. That would be done afterwards.
But it's a new A&R.
Yeah.
So I think you're covered on that too.
So I think it'll be fine. I mean, what else can we do? And other than, in my opinion, do it the simpler way of just petition, having it be held in common ownership.
I mean, I would suggest that this gives more certainty for the town, and then if there's something that has to be done, you have to submit you have to file the new A&R. I think this works.
And if I may, just to add, I think we as a board would be remiss to ignore the guidance of our town council and our town planner on the common ownership issue. I strongly feel that if they're suggesting that that's not the correct path for us as a board in a town, then I personally have to give that weight.
So you've seen this situation before?
We have seen A&R plans with parcels that are going to be transferred from one to another after, and it's contingent on the A&R plan. That's when I said we've seen things like this, and I feel it's important for us to be consistent. Yes, we have addressed similar issues. No two are identical, but
we just want to make sure that we, with consistency, the precedent and the expectations are known as compared to something different. So that creates, what is the expectation? I think this works. I think this is good.
All right.
I guess my only question, it's really for Elijah, is just procedural. If one of these conditions is not met, what happens? Does our approval dissolve? Our endorsement, I should say, is our endorsement then revoked if these conditions are not adhered to?
Yes, so outside of the revisions to the plan, the other 3 conditions would be just monitoring me and making sure that I'm maintaining communication with the applicant.
Okay, great. And then it's fair to expect that condition 1 will be handled prior to us having Mylar to sign.
Okay. Yes,
correct.
All right, I'm satisfied with the language here, and I guess unless there's any further questions or comments from my colleagues, if you all are satisfied with this, I would entertain a motion.
Go ahead, Kate, you're up.
I'm like, okay, but let's
Unless you want, I'll take it if you want.
let's get it done though, guys.
There you go.
Okay. I move that the planning board find the approval not required application for 18 Alcott Lane dated September 13th, 2023, and which the planning board voted not to endorse on on September 26, 2023, to now be complete, and that the board vote to endorse the submitted plan as not requiring approval under the subdivision control laws, subject to the following conditions. One, that prior to endorsement, the ANR is revised to add a label to proposed lot 8, which designates that parcel as not a buildable lot. Two, that proposed lot 8 is transferred to the owners of 15 Connor Street in a manner such that the name of the grantees on the deed for proposed lot 8 are identical to the names of the grantees on the deed for 15 Connor Street. Three, that the owners of 15 Connor Street shall petition the land court to release the proposed lot 8 and allow to be combined with 15 Connor Street within 6 months of the date this ANR plan is recorded with the land court. Confirmation of approval by the land court in the ordinary course of its proceedings must be submitted to the town planner. Four, that the owners of 15 Connor Street shall file a new ANR plan or perimeter plan to combine proposed lot 8 with the existing 15 Connor Street parcel within 6 months of the date of that proposed lot 8, of the date that proposed lot 8 is released by the land court.
Second.
Second.
Sorry, I was muted there. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Chris?
Yes.
Phil?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You as well.
Good night.
Thank you.
Right, and that was not a public hearing, so nothing to close. Next agenda item is review of draft meeting minutes from October 10th, 2023. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes? And did anyone have any comments or edits they'd like to suggest?
I did not.
I did not as well.
What was the date of that meeting?
October 10th.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as submitted for October the 10th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Kate?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The motion carries. All right, then. Oh, Jess, yes. I'm seeing you waving at me.
I'm sorry, I'm probably out of order, but Kate, were you at the last meeting? It was the meeting before that. You were
Yes,
not at.
Jessica, I was
Okay,
at the
sorry.
last meeting.
Sorry.
Whoa,
the
Jess,
meeting
what
before
are you
you got it.
Help me
saying to
out,
me?
man.
Holy cow.
I made motions.
Yeah.
It was the one before.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
my
you for
mistake.
checking.
Thank you. Just
Appreciate
double
it.
checking.
No worries at all. Thank you. All right. So we've accepted the minutes. The next agenda item is updates from agency and committee representatives. Has anyone attended any meetings they'd like to share information on?
We had a long-range financial planning meeting this morning, and essentially it's centered around moving forward with the rebuilding of Firehouse 1, the main firehouse on High Street. They've identified that High Street, the existing location, is the best location. So we as a committee put a recommendation to the select board to just putting our 2 cents in, basically acknowledging that. And there's talks of maybe turning the newly acquired VFW hall into a temporary while they demolish the existing firehouse and build that, and then possibly using it for other temporary purposes once it's done being used as a temporary firehouse. So that kind of quickly describes what was discussed this morning.
Thank you. That's exciting. I am happy to hear that that's moving forward.
Oh, and they were looking to do a special town meeting in January to help better align the progress and not waiting till the spring town meeting.
Great. And that would that be similar, as far as you know, to say the special town meeting for the elementary school, where it's the one issue or the one article?
Now, I believe I may have misspoken. Nora was in attendance. She might be able, I think she's still on here. Nora, is it an election or a town meeting? A special election or a town meeting that we're looking for in January? I may have misspoke. Nora, are you here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
The proposal, which was approved last night, the select board scheduled a special town meeting for
I thought it was January 17th or...
in January 17th, possibly. I have to check the calendar, but they scheduled a special town meeting for that date. And they they opened and closed the warrant article and put 3 articles on it. One of them, which was a reserved article, but I believe they all had to do with the potential design of a fire station.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was doubting when I said town meeting versus special election. I got in my own head. Sorry about that.
No, that's great.
Thanks,
Thank you. That's
Nora.
exciting news. Yes, thank you both for that update. Has anyone else been to any meetings they'd like to share with us?
Anything else
I'd like-
on the climate?
Yes, I was sad I missed that first visiting session. My
missed it
apologies.
too.
I will be at the next one, but I'm dying to hear about how that went, Elijah.
Yeah, so it was a productive meeting. I think we had a decent turnout. I think everyone that came was active and wanted to contribute. We were able to get, some good ideas based on the different sections of the plan. And we do have a next community visioning session that is coming up at the main library, at the main branch of the library on High Street. That will be November 2nd, Thursday at 6 p.m.
Excellent. Thank you. Looking forward to that and to see what comes out of both of these visioning sessions. So I attended the trick meeting last week. It was virtual this time. And we had, I've got my notes here so that I don't misspeak. We had 2 representatives from the Boston Metropolitan Planning Organization, and they're working on a transportation improvement plan. So they were asking all the representatives from the trick communities to kind of highlight areas where we have concerns about transportation challenges and traffic and things like that. So I put a couple of pins in a couple of places in Westwood, like the Washington Street and 109 and the areas that we know are a challenge. So hopefully that feedback is helpful for them as far as they're continuing to move forward with the overall transportation improvement plan for Massachusetts and the greater Boston area, especially. And then, I got to hear, it's really interesting. That committee is interesting because it's several towns. So it's Canton and Stoughton and Dover and Norwood. And, so we hear about what's going on in these other communities. And I shared a bit about, and Steve Olenoff was there as well. We shared a bit about some of the projects going on in Westwood and, what's coming up for us. And there was a lot of talk about the MBTA zoning. Many of the communities in Trick they're starting their work now. So they were interested in what we had done. I'm interested in their approach. So it's really, it was neat. It was a good meeting. So yeah, and they were impressed with what we'd done so far, which was kind of nice to hear too. Kate, yes.
Yeah. So I did not attend a meeting, but I wanted to make a comment about the way that this meeting functions, and to just say that the meeting a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that Elijah was ticking off kind of each hour as it went by, and I found that so useful. And I just wanted to say that I appreciated that, and I'm hoping that you will do that more, because keeping folks cognizant of the time that we've spent on different subjects, I think is really useful, and I appreciated it.
I second that.
Yes. So Elijah, you need to keep us on task at times, so you don't have planning board members rambling on and on and on as we want to do.
Yes, thank you. Amanda's definitely helped me in that department, and especially with the agenda items when they're, longer agendas, I definitely am going to make sure to keep on that.
No, that is helpful because I think sometimes, and correct me, colleagues, if I'm wrong, we try to fine line between being thorough ourselves, but also being respectful to our applicants. So we don't want to cut each other or other applicants or residents off, but it is important to be mindful of the time. And I think the way that you did that was perfect. It was polite and unintrusive, but appreciated. So yes, please do that again. Thank
It's also
you.
important if we have a long list of items that we have to get through, not to have some applicant trying to talk about their application at midnight as compared to sometime in the actual hours of the
Yes.
evening. So I
Definitely.
completely echo Kate on that.
As do I. Thank you. Were there any other goings on, meetings, anything else to report? I'm seeing heads shaking, so I will move on to our next agenda item, which is general miscellaneous updates and administrative items. I see that we have 3 upcoming board meetings listed, and I believe they will be the last 3 of the year: November 14th, 2023, December 5th, 2023, and December 19th, 2023. Hard to believe that we are in the last quarter of 2023 or approaching it rapidly, the end of the year. Elijah, were there any other, or Amanda, were there any other administrative items that we needed to address?
So I would agree. I think the year is definitely kind of moving fast. Administratively, the 22 Everett Street project is going to be on the November 14th meeting, and I'm going to be trying to work kind of behind the scenes, reaching out to the applicant, making sure that their side is good, reaching out to Norwood, making sure that they get their independent traffic study together, and so that we can hopefully come to some sort of decision on the 14th, and be able to wrap this one up. And then there's also another just a mentioning of that 14th meeting as well. There will be an agenda item for warrants and topics of different proposals from the board for that next town meeting. So just read through the rules and regulations, and then also think of the warrants that we'll be having specifically with the MBTA communities, making sure that we comply with the state's regulations. So yeah, I don't know if Amanda has anything.
Something reminded me. So when the housing partnership met, one of the things you talked about was how with the affordable housing inventory in town right now, the 80% AMI is becoming increasingly unaffordable for people. And one of the questions the committee asked was, well, how can we enforce the lower AMI? To which the response was the planning board. So just something to keep in mind.
That's helpful.
Just to add to that, specifically with special permits, there is a little more ability for the board to condition different projects. So definitely keep that in mind.
That was going to be my next question about our purview and our leeway as to, how stringent we can be on that. But, and I think you've had some recommendations for us as far as some of the special permits we're talking about now, or one of the special permits we're talking about now with the distribution. So that's helpful. And I appreciate that. I think we'll absolutely be cognizant of that. Wonderful. Thank you.
Elijah, any update on Norwood with the traffic study? Or I saw your email, but any timing?
No, I'll check again this week.
I just want to make sure we have an opportunity to read it as compared to if it comes in the night before. Sometimes that's more of a challenge you get a multi-100-page report, and I actually like to read stuff. So if it's possible to get it to us sooner, that's great.
I will try to aim for at least 1 week in advance.
If we can, it just my comments.
Thank you.
Definitely.
I know some of that's beyond your control, but we
Yeah.
appreciate your effort there. You know?
Yes.
All right. Did anyone, staff, board members, anybody have anything else they would like to add?
No?
All right. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I have two motions in
Tripled.
2 seconds. Yes.
That was well done, Kate.
Is
Just like
there
we
any-
rehearsed.
Yes, that you guys were absolutely coordinated. Was there any further discussion on adjournment?
Just that, Kate, it's too early. You can't adjourn. You're the only one that has to stay.
Yes.
All right.
No other
Phil-
comment.
As long as you
Phil's-
guys are gone, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Phil's in rare form tonight.
There we go.
Seeing no further discussion on adjournment, I will take a roll call vote. Kate, you get to go first.
Hi.
Bill,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your work
Have a great
this
night.
evening.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Thank you.